Folks, there's no other way but to be all in. Either he's Lord of all or he is not Lord at all. And you can experience the real and authentic, true life change that only God can provide to humanity. See, when we truly encounter Jesus and purpose to know him and follow his teachings, hashtag life change will occur.
Don't sacrifice quality and flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili, breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
The Barley Room, a proud sponsor of Proview Networks for over 9 years, is pleased to introduce Black Iron Catering. From weddings and family reunions to birthdays and office parties, Black Iron Catering is perfect for any event. Contact Jamie at 505-459-8259 and book your event today. Black Iron Catering. Let us bring our kitchen to you. Hoops New Mexico basketball courts is coming to Albuquerque soon. 10 full basketball courts and a whole lot more. For more information, contact Dan Serrano at hoopsnm@aybl.com.
Garden Sort's Team Sales is a proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
Get into the game. Garden Schwartz Team Sales features fine products and apparel from Wilson, Schutt Sports, Speedline, and Russell Athletics. We offer custom embroidery and screen printing services for all of your school or club needs, from team uniforms to school letter jackets. Specializing in all sports and serving all communities, from big schools to small schools, from up north to down south, or all points in between. Garden Schwartz Team Sales. For great prices, friendly staff, and quality products, call Garden Schwartz Team Sales today at 1-800-880-7767. That's 1-800-880-7767. Since 1939, Garden Schwartz Team Sales is a proud supporter of New Mexico youth athletics.
It is time for another edition of the Sports Desk. I'm Scott Galletti, along with the man on my left, Ed Nunez. Alden Iowani, our fine director as well, and we are going to talk a lot of sports, mainly basketball, because our special guest this week, former University of New Mexico Lobo guard, Doris Gary. How you doing, Doris?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
You know what? I'm going to say it's that time of year, because this is the time of the year that you come home, if you will, back to Albuquerque. And
yes,
got a lot to talk to you about, past, present, future. But let's first talk about what you're doing.
I'm playing overseas right now. I've been playing 3 years overseas, 1 year in the D League. So this is my fourth professional. So just doing that. Just got home maybe.
Where did you play this year?
This year I played over in Qatar. So I'm still over towards the Middle East, still playing. First year was Egypt, second Saudi.
Wow.
And now this in Qatar.
What is it like just adjusting to the culture, first off? How hard is that to get used to? And you know, from a lot of guys, you know, Daniel Ferris comes to mind, who've gone to situations where it's Middle Eastern territory,
right,
and fell in love with the place. What's it like just, well, hey, how am I going to get used to this place? And then what do you feel like about the place once you do get used to it?
It usually takes me a week or two to get used to it. I adapt to different environments pretty fast, but the people there are great. I mean, I guess as long as you're doing your job, they take care of you. But each place to me is different. Saudi Arabia was the hardest place that I, had to adjust to, just because they're more strict, and not a lot of, foreigners are in Saudi Arabia. It's mainly closed off. But in Egypt and Qatar, it's kind of a tourist place. A lot of people go there. A lot of European people are there. So, I mean, it's easy once you just get out and you try to go see things and meet different people. And like I said, it's basketball, so it can never be too hard.
I was going to ask you too about that. You know, it's funny that you're seeing the world too. I think, you know, there's a lot of things as when you're not playing someday that you'll remember and look back on and think about your experiences culturally and athletically. Boy, I can just imagine some of the things that you're seeing out there. And I got to smile. I've never been out there, but when you mentioned, I wanted to ask you about the basketball itself. What's that like? Because the competition that you're playing against. What's that like?
It's actually pretty good. When I first found out that I was going to Egypt, I was little, you know. I don't know what's out there, but when I got out there and actually, you know, got to practicing and playing, I was very impressed. They take it serious out there. You know, soccer is very big out there, but basketball, I think they're developing better than what a lot of people think. You know, I have to work when I go out there. I have to earn my check. It's not, you know, just going out there and easy basketball. Practices are tough. The games are tough. I actually won my first 2 years. I won 2 championships out there. And
very nice.
Right, and like I said, it was difficult. I had to make sure I was on top of my game. So it was good. Basketball, to me, basketball is always basketball, no matter where you go. I think people love it, and if you put forth the effort, I mean, it's always going to be what it is.
And the one thing about the effort that you had to overcome was obviously your last year, your injury.
Right.
That kind of slowed you down. How did you overcome that, get stronger to build to where you are now?
It was tough. You know, every kid's dream, you know, when you're a basketball player is to go to the NBA. And I feel like I was on the right track. You know, I feel I had a great career, you know, at the Lobos to put me towards, you know, that track and put me in a situation that I would get drafted. And when you go down with an injury like that, I mean, a lot of stuff set in. You know, you kind of get a little bit of depression and all that stuff. But, you know, I have a good background with my family. You know, they helped me. My wife, you know, she stuck with me. And just day by day, we just worked. And if people know who I am, I'm not a person that gives up easy. So I just, you know, kept pushing and kept grinding, and it paid off at the end. The
other thing, the reason why I ask you about the injuries, because the way you play, I mean, you're like a runaway bus. I mean, you're playing 1,000 miles an hour, and an injury like that just puts you at zero. So for you to play your way, I mean, that's probably part of the frustration, isn't it?
It is. When I first came back to D-League, didn't, you know, do too well. I mean, I didn't get a lot of playing time, but at the same time, that was, you know, my first gig off the injury. And still testing things, like you said, getting bumped and the way I plant and jump and different things like that, it was tough. But I pretty much stayed in the weight room and, you know, got my body back to where it needed to be, and now I'm fine.
You increased your scoring average every year that you were here, finally averaging as a senior 14.1 points a game. And I think one of the things I wanted to ask you about an injury, and we've all had them as athletes, you know, and you feel depressed because you can't be out there doing what you do and knowing how, and you plant, you make a move, and you're like, you don't feel the same confidence, the same explosion. And Scott's right. You absolutely played like that. Boy, we used to love that because, you know, you played physicality, man. You like to drive to the hole, and you know, like you told me before we got on, you're going to make the referee make a call.
Right.
So how long did it take you to feel that confidence again, as far as where your knee was at?
When I first came back, I think I came back in maybe 7.5 months when I actually got out and started playing again. But it took me maybe a year and a half to get that confidence back where I can get bumped, make a cut at the same time, and go finish, you know, over somebody that's 7 feet. Like you said, it's tough, the way I play, the jerking of the body and different things like that. So it took around like a year and a half. But once, you know, once you just go ahead and just trust it and just get past it mentally, I was all good.
And you put the work in rehab-wise. I know you did. And I think as an athlete, again, I've never played on your level, but I've been there when I've had an ankle or something, and it's frustrating that you couldn't do the things that you did. But I feel if I've seen you. I see you at the center all the time coming to work out. So I'm sure that you put the reps in and you got that heart that you're not going to stop and quit. You're going to move forward, and that's what you're doing right now.
Yeah, I have to say that's one of the biggest things about, being a professional. I mean, my body is my tool, so I try to take care of it best as I can. Like I said, stay in the weight room, try to eat right. That was one of the biggest things when I got here. Everybody know, Coach Alford always make jokes about it. I was heavy when I got here, around 230, and Coach worked with me in the, A-Day and, Coach P and all those guys.
They still fed you those cookies, though.
No, they took the cookies away. I have cookies for a long time, but when I got down to my weight, I was able to perform at the level I needed to. So now, you're getting paid. You got to take it more serious. So I try to do all those little things.
Do you keep in touch with Coach Alford at all and Coach Neal?
Yeah, I talk to them from time to time. They, they call me and check on me and see how things are doing. It's tough when they're doing their thing, trying to take care of their business. I'm overseas, and you got 7-hour, 8-hour time difference. But, they still hit me up, especially when I come home.
One thing that I remember about you, because I came here during your sophomore season, that was my first year, and I saw the rest of your career. Like I said, you were the guy, put the ball in Doris's hand, he'll drive to the basket. How much did it take for you to develop your shot? Because you had a good jump shot, but your game was inside first. For a point guard, you were inside out, and as opposed to outside in.
See, what people don't know, I started off, I think my 7th, 8th grade, I played in the post.
Wow.
So I was a post player, and then I didn't grow too much, but I grew a little bit. Started slimming down, and my ball handling always been good, so they moved me to point guard. So I always just had the mentality of just
take it to the basket,
just going inside. It's just easier. But Coach Alford, being a great shooter that he is, he just always, gave me confidence. Coach Neal too, the confidence. Shoot the ball. You can shoot. And I got up reps. Me and Rowe and some of those guys. We stayed in the gym. Being gym rats, getting shots after shots after shots. So I put in the work. It was just, having the confidence to go out and just shoot the jump shot.
Talk a little bit about Coach Alford, because you mentioned what a great career he had at Indiana as a shooter, drafted by the Dallas Mavericks in the 5th round. Didn't have a great pro career, but he's, again, you mentioned Mr. Indiana basketball. I mean, everybody knows who Coach Alford is. I'm going to go to a player, J.R. Giddings. When he coached J.R. Giddings here, Giddings came from Kansas and was coached by Richie McKay and only played for Coach Alford 1 year. Now, I watched that very closely. Coach Alford would really, he'd undress him. He would. But he'd put him back into, he'd get on him, put him back in the game, and I thought really J.R. Giddings getting drafted in the 1st round by the Boston Celtics, he owed a lot of that to Coach Alford. I really believe that. Can you talk a little bit about his coaching? I mean, again, 30-5 seasons don't grow on trees here. And, to me, I told you the other day, I've watched Lobo basketball since I was 5 years old. And he's probably the best coach we've ever had here. So can you talk a little bit about Coach Alford?
To me, he's probably the best coach I've ever played for. Him, and I put Coach Neal in there too, because they was a duo. But Coach Alford, he was a hard nose, played for Bobby Knight, so he had that mentality where, he always talked about he had this blueprint, and if you followed the blueprint, that everything would get in line. And he was strict on us. Have to go to class, have to be in practice. It was class on the court, and then it was class off the court. So we're getting tested, in the classrooms, and then when you got to the court, it was also tests, with scouting report. It could be the sayings on the wall that you would have to know, or a test on the plays. So it was difficult to play for him, but at the same time, when you just bought into what he wanted, it got easier.
Right.
And when you did buy into it, you have a 30-5 season.
Right. Okay. Exactly. I think what I want to ask you again about him. You mentioned Bobby Knight. I read A Season on the Brink. I read that book, and Coach Alford was Bobby Knight's whipping boy. He really was. He really was. Defensively, I want to ask you about his approach defensively. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because he played for one of the masters of defense, one of the greatest coaches there ever was. Disagree with him or not, and there's some things that Coach Knight did that I didn't agree with.
Right.
But as a coach, I don't know anybody that can disagree with had, he graduated players, didn't cheat, So can you talk about Coach Alford's approach defensively?
I don't know if Coach Alford played too much defense in his day. He was offensive.
Wasn't the quickest guy. No, he wasn't.
No, but he was. It was big. It was big to him. I mean, every day in practice we spent time on shell drill, just the basics of defense. Jumping to the ball, help side, cutting off, defensive slides, and it was every day. It was he had his practice plan laid out, maybe 10 minutes of shooting, 15 minutes of fast break drills, but every day it was something in there where we had to do with defense. If it was getting back in transition, if it was shell drill, if it was a rebounding, to end defense, you have to rebound the balls if it was a rebounding drill. But every day it was emphasis on defense. So, and I think my junior year when we went 30-5, we were pretty good at defense, and we worked on it a lot. So he instilled that in me, actually. He recruited me because I played defense. I wasn't necessarily, a big-time scorer, right? But I could play defense. So
to take the defense to another level, on the comment that you just said, Doris, the fact in that 30-5 season, Drew Gordon goes down with that injury. He's out of the game for a little bit, comes back, and you still should have won that game. And a lot of that was because of the defense.
Yeah. Like I said, it's tough. Coach, he has his offensive schemes where he's going to put you in a position to score. And I mean, he never really, put too much pressure on us about scoring, but he always would say defense it's all about effort, and in practice we would go at it. We didn't have regular practices, it wasn't you let this guy skate or let this guy skate. No, you got up in him and you made him better. Yeah. So that transferred over to the games. That's why I think we were that good.
Former Lobo Doris Gary is our guest. We'll take a break and come back and talk more with him on the Sports Desk.
It's grounded at third. They're going to step on the bag for one. Across for the double play. Galvan with a stretch at first.
Dangerous time here. Gordon continues to serve. It's blocked. It's kept up. Bend off the foot. Playing some soccer and then Bendis.
And it's going to be an option this time. To Ventura. He changes direction. Ventura gets a little bit of a juke, and he's going to run that back.
Madison Haley, she was serving the first two sets when they wrapped it up. Scramble, still alive. Haley pancakes it off the floor, and then she takes it out again on the back row. Hamill with a swing.
Candelario with the presence of mind. Good move down the lane. Score. She is fouled.
That's a gorgeous set and a better finish.
Edergon. Here comes Brown. Spin move inside, and Kaviana Brown score.
Hackey on the far side. Ramirez gonna roll out looking. Ramirez is gonna run a long way. Back the other way. Now gonna toss it towards the end zone, and he's got his guy. Touchdown. The play, the continuation from Francisco Ramirez to his teammate.
That's up the middle of base hit. And here's the throw to the plate and a collision, and it is.
Oh, North trying to get out, and get out and run. Let's see what they can do here. Crosses her up, takes it to the rim, and run. The bucket is good. Number 2, Kawhi Du Bois from Ramah. And that is the stuff the And One mixtapes are made of, my friends.
Don't forget, every Proview Network sporting event is on sale at our DVD store. Go to www.proviewNetworks.com to buy your DVD today.
Terry Cosper Insurance Agency is a proud partner with Proview Networks and a proud supporter of New Mexico high school athletics. Terry's been a local farmer's agent for over 20 years for auto, home, life, and business insurance. Just like high school sports are important, so are teen drivers. For more information, call Terry or one of his licensed staff members at 898-5556. Quotes are available for you.
Altitude Sports Grill is where Albuquerque's sports fans won't miss a game. With locally crafted brews on tap and refreshingly crisp cocktails. Located in Hotel Cascada, Albuquerque residents find a staycation worth staying for. Catching Lobo sports, enjoying a beer on the beach, or wiping out, Hotel Cascada is home to your urban adventure. Affordable guest rooms, no-hassle water park parties, and much more.
Crafters, proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
Are you sure we're supposed to be doing this?
Don't worry, I've watched him do it 1,000 times. Come on, what's the worst that can happen?
No! Bad dog!
Hi, welcome to Car Crafters. What happened? Don't worry, we'll make it like it never happened.
Car Crafters! It's like it never happened!
Hey Lobo fans, I'm Sarah. And I'm Samantha. Jaguar Land Rover Albuquerque has been a family-owned business since 1988. The 2017 Jaguar F-Pace has been named the winner of the 2017 World Car of the Year and World Car Design of the Year.
Land Rover's signature terrain response system is flawless against any curveball New Mexico weather can throw at you.
We have a class-leading extended warranty on all Jags and Land Rovers and one of the greatest pre-owned inventories in the state of New Mexico.
Call 505-797-3600 to schedule a test drive.
Gecko's Bar and Tapas, a proud supporter of Proview Networks. It's been a fan-favorite spot for food lovers and sports fans. With not one, but 2 great locations, including outdoor patio, an atmosphere you won't want to miss. Gecko's, off Academy and in Nob Hill.
And we are back here on the Sports Desk. Scott Gallotti along with Ed Nunez. We are joined by former University of New Mexico Lobo, Doris Gary, and playing overseas. We were talking off the break. Adam Deal was talking with you as well. We were talking off the break about just the different cultures and the different game situations that you had overseas. That's probably a show in itself, but you kind of lit up with a smile on a couple of things. Talk about some of the differences, because when you go to like a BYU, you get like a lot of students chanting at you and yelling stuff, and you go to different places, you get yelling and this and that, bands playing, but out of the country, it's a different animal. Explain that.
Just the fans are different. Of course, overseas, you have your top few teams, your middle few teams, and you have your bottom few teams. Well, in Egypt, the top teams will have all the fans, and sometimes the fans can get a little rowdy. It was one game where we were at, and they had to cancel the game because the fans came out of the crowd, was fighting the players and fighting each other, and it was crazy. So they had the year I played, they canceled all the fans. You couldn't have any fans at the games, and we had to start playing at different Army bases.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, it was tough. You know, you used to playing in front of, you know, thousands and thousands of people to go into playing against a gym that's with crickets in it.
Unfortunately, that wasn't where I was going with the questioning, but that's a great
story, though.
Yeah, that's a great story.
I'm trying to envision that in my mind. Yeah.
What were some of the crazier things that you have seen just in the stands that relate to like fans just having different culture, the way they cheer on their teams?
First thing is the language. You know, you have people speaking a different language, doing different chants. But fans are fans, man. You know, they have the drums going and the different things like that. And like I said, the difference to me is just I mean, sometimes they're uncontrollable.
What about in terms of, like, we were talking like flares and stuff like that? I mean, do they do stuff like that? Because I've actually seen video where they had like sparklers and this and that in the game that was part of their cheers.
Yeah, I haven't experienced it, but at the side, like I said, soccer is very big over there.
Yeah.
So if you go to a soccer game, you will see some amazing things, some crazy things, some amazing things. You know, they have the flares and the sparklers and the chants and just crazy stuff out there. That soccer out is crazy. I thought, you know, playing in the pit was ridiculous. But when you get out there and you see a soccer game, it's even crazier.
I wanted to ask you, some teams overseas have a limit of how many Americans you can have on a roster. Is that the case out there where you're playing now?
Yeah.
And have you played with anybody of note? You know, I'm sorry to interrupt, but have you played with anybody of note from the States that we would know about?
Actually, when I was in Egypt, I played. You'll have an American, and then you have to have a African player. I mean, it could be an American, but if you have an African passport, that would be your two professional players. And I actually played against Charles, the big guy from BYU. I actually got to play against him. So when I see him, it was good.
That must have been funny.
It was. Yeah. We seen each other, and he's doing great too, by the way. But I think that might be the only person that I've like played against or in the same conference or whatever. But yeah, that was pretty cool seeing him out there in Egypt.
I wanted to ask you too, as far as practices. You mentioned playing in an armory with no fans, and you know, I've been around basketball for a long time, so I'm just envisioning that. But you know, are practices similar to what you did here? Are they at a certain time? Its schedule is different, I'm sure. It's not the United States, so I'm sure they have their own schedule. You know, what were practices like there? 2-hour practices? Are they, you know, taxing like they were here? What were they like?
I don't think I'll ever go through practice like I did, you know, playing for Coach Alfred and Coach Neal. But I mean, it's pretty much regular. You have a set time that you have to be at the gym. When you first get there, you have your tour days and things like that. But it wasn't hard, you know, practices. But you know, at the same time, sometimes you can go for 2.5, 3 hours, and you know, after a while, it's just, you know.
But it wasn't real as far as
no, you go
physically
out,
demanding.
No, you go out and you do your drills, and you know, you might get a scrimmage, little 5-on-5, play a little 3-on-3, get some shots up, and you get out of there.
In terms of defense, because you mentioned I was there, Coach Alford, Coach Neal, that was what they preached each and every day. You go to the D-League. The D-League is kind of like the NBA, where it's offense, and you being a point guard, you may pass it and never get the ball back. You know, what is it like playing overseas? What kind of style do they play there?
It's much different. Like you said, they preach defense. You know, when I was at New Mexico, you know, when you get over there, for me, as a point guard, my job is to score the basketball. You know, I've developed, you know, being able to be a scorer, but me putting defense with it, like they look at me like, this guy is like amazing. He can play defense and he can score. Like they're not used to seeing that. They're used to, you know,
it's interesting.
Just, you know, having a point guard or a wingman just go out and score 25 and 30 points, but that's it. So over there, that when you have a professional player, that's pretty much your job in the Middle East. Now, when you get to Europe and different things like that, it gets more, traditional. Point guard might have, 10 to 12 points and, have his assists.
Right.
But he can just lock down. So, that's kind of weird to me. It's still overseas, but the different, places have, different basketball.
You kind of answered the question I was going to ask you about. You mentioned one American on each team, which makes it tough for an American to make the team.
Mm-hmm.
You being a multifaceted player makes it an advantage for you to make that team.
Yeah, like I said, they're not used to that, and they're not used to over in the Middle East. Like I haven't been to Europe, but over in the Middle East, they're not used to big point guards. They would consider me, a big point guard because I'm strong. So when they see me, they're kind of iffy, can he move? Can he? But then when I go out and play, their eyes light up. Hitting people, getting steals. You can go out and dunk the basketball, but it's fun. And I feel blessed to be able to continue to go do what I love.
Would you call it a wide open style that they play as far as the way we're seeing the NBA now? 3-point shooting. Would you call it that kind of style, or the European style, pass and cut, which has really caught on with a lot of European basketball has got so much better the last 10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
And the Europeans are actually beating a lot of American teams too. So would you call it a wide open style like that, a 3-point shooting, or what would you call it that you're playing right now?
It's a lot of one-on-one basketball.
Isolation?
Yeah, like this year when I played, I seen a lot of double teams, a lot of triple teams. Like over in Qatar, if you're an American, like I said, they bring you there to score, and the other teams know it. So, they're throwing 2 and 3 guys at you, and a lot of teams are playing zone, so it's like a box and one. But for me, it'd be like 2 in a triangle over here. And the hard thing about it is they still expect you to go out and score. So
regardless if you're triple teamed or double teamed.
Regardless of it. So sometimes it gets tough, but you just learn to deal with it, and I guess it makes you better. So to different places you go to, if you go to a place that they're playing you one-on-one, you're like, oh, this is nothing. I just scored 30 points on 3 guys. So.
Right.
Do you keep up with the NBA?
Oh, yeah, as much as I can. Over there it's kind of...
I know that would be a dream of yours to make it, but as far as like watching it, because being a player and being a fan is 2 different things, because you're busy playing.
Yeah. I don't watch everything. Like I watch certain teams and certain players. Like I love Kyrie, man. He's one of the best finishers I've ever seen in my life, as going to the basket on bigs and the way he spins the ball off the glass and different things like that. So I love watching him. Of course, Steph, the way he shoots, different. This playoffs was crazy to me, just seeing the way Durant just took over and just the way he just scored the ball and did things like that. So I try to, keep up with things like that. I don't try to watch every game.
Do you have a favorite team, or do you just have favorite players?
I love the Lakers.
Yeah.
I'm a big Magic Johnson fan. That's my favorite player of all time. So I always tell people I'm a Lakers fan. But like I said, I watch different players and try to, take a little bit of what they do and try to add it to my game.
Watching you play, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I even think that I made a couple of Magic Johnson references while you were playing back in the day because of how you played and how he played. And I covered Magic when he was playing.
Yeah. Yeah, I love Magic. The guy played so hard and was so unselfish. And being 6'8" or 6'9", however tall he was, wasn't
you weren't that tall.
No,
that was
in my heart, I was about 6'7" in my heart,
but you were strong. That was the thing that amazed people, how you could take it. I think of that Notre Dame game, where they had a huge big in there who ended up, didn't he get drafted?
Yeah.
He was, I believe, a first-round draft pick,
yeah.
And you were driving on him the entire night.
Yeah, it's. I think it's just from me. I'm the baby of the family, so always getting beat up and picked on, always playing with older guys. I got that mentality where I don't care. You're not gonna stop me. If you knock me down, I'm gonna get back up and. my genetics, helping out a little bit, just having a thicker body and, just being strong helps out too. But just being that younger player, always playing with the older guys, I think kind of made me like that.
I can see where you would love Magic Johnson. Actually, you've been in my office. You saw the Lakers stuff I have.
Yeah.
You love the pictures. You and I talked about that the other day. Jerry West was actually the first poster on my wall. So I've loved the Lakers ever since I was 10 years old. And I think of Magic. I think I remember watching him make this pass against in the regionals against Notre Dame. He's going down the court and just throws his pass to Greg Kelser. I couldn't believe he saw him. And, so when you talk about Magic, he's still my favorite Laker of all time, too. I never saw anybody ever, and I tell my son that, ever pass the ball the way he did. My son always reminds me, Dad, he had Kareem, he had Worthy, he had Byron finishers. He did.
Right.
It's true.
Right.
But, I never saw anybody. And they said this, I read Showtime, the book about Magic, or the Lakers. Yeah. And they said when he first came to the Lakers, he would pop Jamal Wilkes in the head with passes. He knew you were open before you did. I also thought when he came to the team that they had Kareem, but they didn't have like a spirit, a driving force. Kareem was great, but it was almost as if he was unemotional. He's never been an emotional guy anyway. Right. But when he came, gosh, he changed everything. He really did. He changed the Lakers. He changed the league. He changed him and Larry Bird at that time. Right. So when you talk about him, I still see it. And I'm watching tonight on ESPN when the best of enemies. They're showing that. I told my wife, don't ask me to do nothing for the next 2 nights, 6 to 8. There's no way I'm missing that. Right. So when you talk about old school NBA like that, I've been watching the NBA since I was 10 years old. So I've seen, when you mentioned Kyrie, some of the moves he made last night. I was telling my sister and my brother-in-law, how can you stop that? And there was great defense. There's nothing, so there's nothing you could do about that. Right. So I could see where, a guard your size would think more Kyrie. And again, Magic's another guy you look at. Yeah. But you're built, like that, and you're going to finish at the rim. You're going to do things like that. Right. So it's always good to talk basketball with great players, man, if you love basketball. Right. Yeah. Right.
Magic I think of course he had his passes in him, but the biggest thing that stuck out to me was how much of a leader he was, and how he could take over a game and just command the team. And Coach Alford used to demand that out of me. He used to say he was Bobby Knight whooping boy. I was Coach Alford's whooping boy, and he demanded that I was a leader. I used to do things and make sure guys would get up and go to class. If they didn't go to class, I would get in trouble for it. Yep. I would have to be to practice hour and a half early, when everybody is strolling in 30 minutes before practice, things like that. By the way. Yep. So when I see Magic and how he led, that was just one of the biggest things that stood out to me, and I always wanted to be, a player like that.
I just want to make one point, but I think you're right, and it was hard. I'm going to say this because I know the Laker history backward and forward. It was hard to lead a guy like Abdul-Jabbar. Abdul-Jabbar, aloof, distant. Some people would say moody, rude. Honestly, that's the truth. He's great players, no doubt, but he wasn't the kind of guy that played into motivating speeches. He wasn't. In fact, they said even to this day he still resents Pat Riley for some of the things Coach Riley did. Yeah. So it's hard to lead a guy like that who doesn't want to. He's his own guy. Right. So I think what Magic did with him, again, Kareem was one of the greatest of the NBA, the best center I ever saw. 6 MVPs, 6 championships. I don't know how people even. It's an argument, sure. But because he's not a media darling, people don't look at him as where he should be, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. But I think it was hard to lead that veteran squad because, you got guys like him, Jamal Wilkes, Norm Nixon. They're kind of Jim Jones. They're kind of in their own thing. This is a rookie here. Right. But I'll tell you what, I think you're right. And if things hadn't happened the way they did, I think he would have won at least 2 more championships. I really believe that. Yeah. Sorry about that, Scott.
Oh, that's okay. Going back to what I was going to ask you, because I was there when he gave you the demands on what he wanted out of you, the pregame inside the ballroom or whatever at the hotel when we were on the road, and he was saying, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do. I was there. The reason why you reminded me a lot of Magic Johnson is because, me also being I was a Laker fan back when they played at the LA Sports Arena before the Forum was built.
Wow.
So when I was very little, I remember the Elgin Baylor Lakers. Mm-hmm. I was little, but I remember Elgin Baylor leading the Lakers and being one of the best players of all time. But the thing about you and Magic, the comparison is drive to the hole, pass off, but If Coach Alford needed you to score, you could score. Same with Magic Johnson. I remember when they beat the 76ers back in 1979, Kareem is injured, and he ends up having the game of his life playing center. And, and that's what he was known for, being versatile. And that, to me, that's you in a nutshell, because and I'm going to ask you another follow-up question after this, which will kind of bring what I'm about to say to light. But, you could score 30, 40 points if you needed to.
Yeah. I've always been a player that, you do what you need to do for the team. And, I mean, when you have players like Roman Martinez, Chad Topper, that can just shoot the laces off the ball. I mean, you drive in.
Shaq could shoot, couldn't he?
A little bit. But you drive in and you find them. But like you said, in crunch time, coach always tell me at the, towards the end of the game, crunch time, that's your time.
Yeah.
And to keep the ball in my hand. And he trusted me enough, and it gave me the confidence to, to start believing in myself. And you work on different parts of your game like that. You work on scoring, because you never know when you might need it. So, at the end of the games, he would tell me to go off and score, and I would put in the work, so I was able to do it.
I'm going to save my follow-up question for after the break. We're going to take a break right now and come back with more on the Sports Desk.
For 55 years, people have bought trucks from Tillery in Los Lunas. We have a great selection of vehicles, the quality service department, and some of the best deals in the state. But most importantly, we found people prefer to buy trucks from people who actually drive trucks.
Tillery is a proud supporter of Proview Sports Network. Locally owned and operated, located in Los Lunas, right off I-25, exit 203.
Visit the Frontier Restaurant. Due to heavy construction on Central, take lead or coal coming north or south. The Frontier Restaurant. Get your Frontier fix on.
Sure, you could get him a new car. You could also light a pile of money on fire. So maintaining this old car is your best option. Keep it running longer, stronger, with quality parts and a whole lot of Napa know-how.
I am never getting married. Never. Guaranteed.
You picked a beautiful ring.
Thank you. We're never having kids.
I love it here.
We are never moving to the suburbs.
We are never getting one of those. We're never having another kid.
I'm pregnant.
I'm never letting go.
For all the nevers in life, talk to State Farm agent Michelle Rudolph or Marty Sy.
Folks, there's no other way but to be all in. Either he's Lord of all or he is not Lord at all. And you can experience the real and authentic, true life change that only God can provide to humanity. See, when we truly encounter Jesus and purpose to know him and follow his teachings, hashtag life change will occur.
Don't sacrifice quality of flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
The Barley Room, proud sponsor of Proview Networks for over 9 years, is pleased to introduce Black Iron Catering. From weddings and family reunions to birthdays and office parties, Black Iron Catering is perfect for any event. Contact Jamie at 505-459-8259 and book your event today. Black Iron Catering. Let us bring our kitchen to you. Hoops New Mexico Basketball Courts is coming to Albuquerque soon. 10 full basketball courts and a whole lot more. For more information, contact Dan Serrano at hoopsnm@aybl.com.
Garden Sort's Team Sales is a proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
Get into the game. Garden Schwartz Team Sales features fine products and apparel from Wilson, Schutt Sports, Speedline, and Russell Athletics. We offer custom embroidery and screen printing services for all of your school or club needs, from team uniforms to school letter jackets. Specializing in all sports and serving all communities, from big schools to small schools, from up north to down south, or all points in between. Garden Schwartz Team Sales. For great prices, friendly staff, and quality products, call Garden Schwartz Team Sales today at 1-800-880-7767. That's 1-800-880-7767. Since 1939, Garden Schwartz Team Sales is a proud supporter of New Mexico youth athletics.
And we're back here on the Sports Desk. Scott Coletti along with Ed Nunez, our special guest, former University of New Mexico Lobo, Doris Gary. And Doris, I was going to ask you before the break, I'll ask you now. It's kind of hard for me to ask you because it ended with your injury. Mm-hmm. But talk about your rivalries with Jimmer Fredette.
I didn't think it was a rivalry.
Well, you were the only guy that could guard him. That's what made it a rivalry.
It was tough. That guy, I mean, I played against a lot of people and going overseas and playing, but he's one of the best scorers I've ever had to guard. Just because, I mean, he was strong, he could handle the ball, but I mean, he could cross half court and just fire. So I think I got the upper hand. I think they might have beat us once, but it was fun. It was fun. Coach, gave me the challenge to, go out and guard him, and I took it kind of personal. So, when we went out and I did what I had to do, as long as we got the win, that's all that mattered to me.
Yep. And you were holding him in check, and once you went out of the game, no one else could guard him, and that's what kind of sent the Lobos to the NIT that year.
Yeah, man, that's tough, man. I still, to this day, I haven't watched the game. When I went down, I still haven't watched it to this day.
I don't blame you.
I feel if I, could have played to the end, I think we would have, won the game and had another chance at going to the big dance.
Yeah, a lot of us thought the same thing. So it was, obviously a disappointing thing, but we talked about it at the beginning of the show, a rallying cry in your professional career.
Right. It just motivated me, especially, when you play with guys like I played against Kawhi Leonard, and he's already, then had gotten MVP, and you see Fredette, and he gets drafted, and he's over in China killing, and you just see guys like that. I played against these guys, and I did well, and different things like that, and I'm not at the same situation, so it just motivated me to just work harder and just try to keep taking step by step and going different levels.
Oh, you did more than well. I know you're also humble, but you did more than well. Let's kind of talk a little bit about what's going on now. Coaching change, with the Lobos. I know you're not totally familiar with the situation, and I know Coach Neal, and you played for him, so I don't want to get too much into that kind of stuff. But I'm going to ask you, when you came to the University of New Mexico, you came with Coach Neal and Coach Alford. Mm-hmm. You were originally going to go with them at Iowa, weren't you?
Yeah.
So it kind of brings up similar situations where you got guys that are being, recruited by Coach Weir at one school, and now they may go to a JC and come here, may not. You hear all the stuff that might be going on.
Right.
Kind of a similarity to you. How much is it when you get recruited following the coaches? Because you followed them, they made you a big part of what their situation was, and everybody thrived from it.
Right. It was one of the best decisions I've ever made, coming with them, by the way. But it's just how much do you trust the coach? I mean, they've been recruiting me since I was in 7th and 8th grade. I went to a couple of the elite camps up there at Iowa.
That's why I'm asking the question, by the way, because I know all this.
Yeah, I went up there to, one of the camps, and, I killed it. And they showed, how bad they wanted me. Of course, I had a lot of other schools that wanted me, but I think they were the ones that I mean, they
invested in you.
Yeah, and they let me know, what the situation was going to be. Like, I didn't know anything about New Mexico. I didn't even, before I, committed here, I didn't even take a visit.
Right.
But just, trusting them and seeing the plan that they had laid out, and like I said, it all worked out.
That's why I asked, because you're in a situation that you were on a team that a lot of people now are comparing this situation to. Whoa, when Coach Alford had J.R. Giddens, a lot of those guys stayed, and him and Coach Neal were able to build up those players and turn them into solid players. Here you got a lot of people leaving, and the comparison comes to that freshman team that you played on, which leads me, and I want to hear it out of your mouth, and that's why I'm asking you the question. As a player, how much do you go for the school, and how much do you go for the coach?
For me, it's always about the coach, because they have your future. I mean, they can play you, they can not play you, they can get rid of you, they can bring people in that's in your position. So to me, it's all about the coach, and then the school falls. And like I said, I didn't know anything about the Pit. I didn't know anything, but I knew Coach Alford and Coach Neal. Previous at Iowa, I seen the players that they, recruited. I seen what type of seasons they had at Iowa, and when you look at it, to me, it was a no-brainer. I mean, you have two guys like that on the same staff, with that much knowledge. Both of them, had NBA experience. So to me, it was all about the coach.
I wanted to ask you this. I think, have you had a chance to meet Coach Weir? Have you had a chance?
Not yet.
Okay. I think one of the things that Scott, and you're talking about this too, it's about trusting the coach. So we're seeing some players, leaving and transferring. We had Coach Weir on about a month and a half ago, and I think the thing is, he's going to churn that roster over to have guys that he wants. I don't think it's a personal thing. Scott and I, I was raised, my eyebrows were raised when Damian Jefferson and Jordan Hunter left, the two most recent guards. But I think one of the things is, again, Coach Weir mentioned this, he's looking for players that are going to stretch the floor. He said UNM ranked 319th out of 356 Division I teams in three-point shooting. So obviously, and I don't think it's a personal thing. It's probably better that he does it now than later. He's going to do it anyway. Because you mentioned trust. It's not that those guys, I'm sure, don't like Coach Weir. He's a likable enough coach, no doubt. But they don't know him. They don't. He didn't recruit them. So I think, in a way, I know some people are concerned. I think
that's why I'm asking Doris on how much is it, the trust in the coach that you're going to a particular school, because I know Doris' situation.
Yeah, and I think, Doris, you're right. Those guys are in 7th grade. Of course you're going to trust them. You know them. The other question I had for you, the Pit, you mentioned the Pit, and what an incredible place, right? What's your most memorable game as a Lobo there at the Pit? I know you got a lot to choose from, but is there one game that stands out that you're just thinking, wow, these fans it's incredible?
It'll probably have to be my junior year when we beat BYU, because I think we were like ranked 18th and they were like 16th or something like that, and this was to kind of put us #1 in the Mountain West, and Jimmy Fredette was having the season he was having, and when they came to the Pit and when we beat them, it was crazy. I think everybody rushed the floor and stuff like that. So that probably is the most memorable time. Well, yeah, when we beat BYU. I think we hadn't beat them for a while too.
Yeah, I want to say that was my second year.
Yeah, they killed us my sophomore year. Freshman year, they killed us.
That would have been the 30-5 year, I think.
Yeah. So when we beat them, that was big. That was big. Then we went to their place and beat them again. So,
what was it like? The year that you went down with the injury. Lobos go in, they're #3 in the country. You, Philip McDonald, Darrington Hobson has that block at the end of the game. Beat #3 BYU on their home floor, and people were just livid there.
One of the toughest places I've ever
the Marriott
played.
Center.
Yeah,
they had over 20,000 people, and then
22,000 capacity.
Then they had standing room on top of that.
I think before the game, the ref set the ball in the middle of the floor, and they got the crowds going, and the ball started like bouncing on its own. Like that's how loud it was.
Louder than the Pit?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Different kind of loud, but it's just, I mean, there were just that many people in the way that the round arena was kind of set. The noise just kind of went, you know, right in the middle. But I think pound per pound, the pit crowds were a lot louder.
Yeah,
and they could get a lot louder. But I mean, BYU,
the situation, you know, that it was in, because I think we clinched the title, beating them at
well, there were two situations. The year before, the one that you're talking about, the 30-5 year, where the Lobos actually beat them both there and here. Yeah. That was the one where the Lobos clinched. And people were throwing stuff out of the stands and everything. And Darrington had that big block, and everyone's going boo and all that good stuff. But then the next year, that was the year that we ended up going to the NIT. That was the year that the Lobos actually won on the road and then lost in the Mountain West tournament.
Yeah. It was tough, man. I mean, I got hit in the head with a pair of glasses down there. But BYU's always.
Will got hit in the head. A bunch of you guys got hit in the head.
I mean, they were throwing all kind of stuff at us. I didn't know they could do that, by the way. But it was a tough game. That team, they had some players on that BYU team, man. And when we beat them, it was like a relief, especially down at their place, because I think they had the longest winning streak in NCAA, right? Yeah. So we ended that. That was pretty cool.
I think one of the things too, as a Lobo fan, I watched BYU growing up. You know, I watched them be a part of the WAC, Mountain West. I miss that rivalry. I really do as a Lobo fan. You know, Danny Ainge came here to play in the pit. I remember that like it was yesterday when he played here for BYU. The Reed brothers. You know, when the Lobo fans, they despise a lot of teams, and BYU was at one of the top of the list. They really did, and you know what I mean. Yeah. So whenever the Lobos played BYU, that was a game that the Lobo fans were just at full throat, like they were at the Marriott Center down there. So that the fact that you said it was louder than the pit, wow, I've never heard. And I was there when the Lobos played Georgetown in 1985. I was at the pit. Man, that place, the roof was about to come off. So if you say it was louder than the pit, wow, that tells you something right there.
What's ahead for you now?
I think I'm gonna keep pursuing, you know, my professional career. Not sure where my next job will be. I've had a few calls, you know, a few teams interested in me, but I'm just waiting to see what the best offer is and, you know, go from there.
Do you have a chance of going back to where you just finished?
Yeah, right after the season, the same team they offered me. I had another team that I played against there call and offer me too. So I have like 2 or 3 teams from there that's wanted me to come back and play there. So.
No, Darius, it's probably a couple years down the way, 5, 8 years. What are your plans after basketball? Do you want to get into coaching? What do you want to do?
I do. I want to coach. My biggest thing is I love training kids. You know, my brother is he has his own gym back home in Indiana where he does training and stuff. So I think we might try to combine. And you know, he does the physical training with the weights and different stuff like that. And you know, I take over and do the basketball part and, you know, different stuff like that. So we've been talking about it for a while, and hopefully we can get that off the ground. If I don't, you know, go into coaching.
Well, Darius, want to thank you so much. Any final words that you have?
I appreciate you guys having me on here. Hope Coach Ware, you know, gets the Lobos back to where they need to be. Like you said this is my home. This is my second home. I always tell people, and I love New Mexico, all the fans that, you know.
And it shows because you always come back.
Always, you know. It doesn't help that my wife is from here, but but you know, I love it here, man. If I ever move from Indiana, this would be the place where I would end up. So.
Yeah, you know what, I was telling your wife that there's something about New Mexico, the land of entrapment, and I say that most affectionately. I'm a lifetime New Mexican. I love this place, so we're just glad that you do, and I'm glad to see you at the center. It's always good to see you over there, man. Always.
Appreciate it.
He's Darius Gary. He's Ed Nunez. Our thanks to Alden Iowani for directing this show, and we will talk to you next week on the Sports Desk.